Ready.
All right, we're back with the final part. I look a little different because I showered. And this is going to be the outside looking in, which is number 16 to 11, and then our top 10. We're going to go movie by movie here. For the outside looking in, I'm not going to be super specific. For the top 10, I will. Let's jump right into it. At 16, we got Empire of Light by Sam Mendes. He did 1917, if you're not familiar. He also did a lot of other movies, but that was his most recent work. He's also done a lot on stage. He recently did the Lehman trilogy that came off Broadway and is in LA currently. He's possibly my favorite director. I think 1917 was a masterpiece, so coming off that, I have high expectations. The reason it's not in my top 10 is because the two leads for this movie are two actors whose movies I'm usually not super into. Olivia Colman, who, while I think is super talented, usually chooses to be in movies that I'm not the biggest fan of. And then Colin Firth, who did things like The King's Speech, also not a huge fan. So them combined usually equals boring for me. Sam Mendes attached moves it up to where it is now. Then we got The Son by Florian Zeller, who directed The Father. I think it's funny that they did The Father and then The Son, and they're unrelated. Hugh Jackman will be in this, which that alone kind of sells me on it, because I'm a big Hugh Jackman fan, and I think he should get more credit than he has. At 14, we got The Fablemans by Spielberg. Spielberg is known for his spectacle. Here, he's going to be doing an autobiographical film about his own childhood, much like Belfast, which seems to have started a trend. I think there's at least one director that's doing that soon. What scares me about this and why it's not my top 10 is because usually Spielberg's a hit no matter what he does, but it's because everything he does is spectacle. What works about a autobiographical film like this is that it's intimate, and I've never seen Spielberg do something intimate, so I'm not sure it's going to be great. I think you can err on the side of caution that it's probably going to be great, or at least good, but the reason it's not my top 10 is because the first time I'm not sure about how it's going to turn out. It could be his best film ever, or it could be forgettable. I'm not sure, and I don't think there's really a middle ground there because it's such a big deal. It's about him. And 13, we have Nope by Jordan Peele. It's so hard that to not put this in my top 10. The only reason is, and this is stupid, I've never really been a huge fan of Keke Palmer. I don't think casting her in a movie usually means anything good because she usually, ends up in movies that are kind of crap. And so, as much as I believe in Jordan Peele, in a year that seems this strong, anything that could possibly be a setback for me, for the sake of this list, is a setback. I'm not sure how much I'm going to like Keke Palmer in this movie, or how much I'm going to like a movie that he felt needed Keke Palmer in it. For the sake of Daniel Kaluuya and Jordan Peele, I hope I'm wrong, and I'll take that on the chin if I am. 12, we have Canterbury Glass by David O. Russell. We don't even know if this is the name of this movie. This movie's been in production for as long as The Next Goal Wins from my other video, and we don't know when it's coming out or what it's going to be named. It's going to be a lot like Licorice Pizza, which had like a working title for the 2 years it was in production and then came out with Licorice Pizza out of nowhere. I mean, Canterbury Glass is going to end up not being the title, and I don't know what it's going to be about. The only reason it's even this high is because Margot Robbie and Christian Bale are in it, and that's enough to get me excited about it. So here it is. And then number 11, I know a lot of people are going to think this is weird. I got Elvis by Baz Luhrmann just because I think Baz Luhrmann doing things like Moulin Rouge, he's all about spectacle. Elvis is the spectacle. And so I think that's a match made in heaven. And I'm also excited to see the performance of Elvis. I think that it could be great or terrible, but either way, I'm super interested. I think that combination is just super intriguing in general, so I'm really excited to see it, and it's coming up soon, which also heightens my excitement because it's a summer movie, so it's in the next few months, and the sooner a thing is, the more excited I get about it, as most humans. But that is our outside looking in movie that almost made the cut but didn't. I'm going to get into number 10 now, which is Disappointment Boulevard by Ari Aster. This has Joaquin Phoenix in it. I heard there was a lot of tension on set between Ari Aster and Joaquin Phoenix. As in most Joaquin Phoenix movies, he clashes with the people he's working with. But it somehow, for me, makes it more interesting because I'm like, every time I hear something like that about his movie, the movie itself ends up being great. And I've seen some production shots, and he got fat for the role, so interesting for me. Then at number 9, we have Asteroid City by Wes Anderson. This is one that, I'm probably the least sure that this is going to come out. There's a lot of, hearsay that it may get pushed back or whatever, but it's got, as usual, an insanely stacked cast led by none other than Bill Murray, as most Wes Anderson movies are, and that alone makes me super excited, same way I was for French Dispatch, which let me down a little bit but was also okay. But this one's getting a lot. People are saying it's going to be great. It's another one. It's like about like a love story in another country and the usual Wes Anderson stuff. But I'm always excited about his films because they're always, at least at the very least, very fun to look at. So it's at number 9. At 8, we have Cha Cha Real Smooth by Cooper Raiff, who also stars in it. And reasons I'm excited: one, Cooper Raiff is young enough to play 22 because he plays a 22-year-old in the movie. So a young director like that, and it's getting a bunch of like critical acclaim from the festivals that it's been playing at. It was like number 1 at like, I think, I'm not even going to try to remember which festival, but it was a big one. I think that combined with the fact that it's a really interesting name, I'm wondering what justifies that name. It's also got Dakota Johnson. There it is. And she's been doing okay stuff recently, which is cool. And it's a small thing that, I mean, Apple TV picked it up and they're coming off of an Oscar win. So that combined with another movie we're going to talk about, they may have a good chance here. And I'm just really, for whatever reason, super intrigued by the little pieces I'm hearing about this movie. So it's at 8. Number 7, we have Don't Worry, Darling by Olivia Wilde. There's just been a lot of controversy with this because it started off having, forgetting his name now. Good, because he's like blackballed by Hollywood. Harry Styles is playing the male counterpart to Florence Pugh, who I think Florence Pugh, I don't have no reason to think this, but is going to be a sleeper for an Oscar for this role. I think that there's been a lot of Shia LaBeouf, that's who it was, who was originally playing Harry Styles' part, got kicked off set for being an a-hole, according to Olivia Wilde. She said she had no tolerance, brought in Harry Styles, and now there's a new person playing that role. I think it's going to be super interesting. I'm a big fan of Florence Pugh with the 3 movies of hers that I've watched. I think they've all been knocked out of the park from her specifically. And so her being on this really is the reason it's up this high. And then, like I said, with My Policeman, or Policeman, whatever, I'm intrigued to see what Harry Styles can do with larger roles and more dialogue than he got in Dunkirk. So I'm excited about this movie. And Olivia Wilde's, I think when she did Booksmart, I heard that was really good. I didn't see it, but I heard she's good. Number 6, we got Napoleon by Ridley Scott. 2 reasons why I'm big on this is it's another Joaquin Phoenix one. I think it might be an Oscar potential for him, and love my boy Joaquin. I think a story about Napoleon Bonaparte is super, I don't know why it hasn't been done yet, but I think the perfect person to do it is Ridley Scott because that seems like his type of source material that he'd really be able to do well with. And just Ridley Scott in general, coming off Last Duel, which for last year was my favorite movie. I'm excited to see him come out with one right after, and it's a big one, and I'm hearing good things about it. I've seen pictures from production, and it looks really cool, and so I'm super excited. At number 5, we got The Northman by Robert Eggers. That's coming out April 22nd this year, so it's really, really soon. I'm super excited, and I've been really excited since the first trailer for this came out. Just looks really cool. That sounds stupid. It's like a Viking-looking kind of thing. It's got one of the Skarsgård boys in it. Nicole Kidman's in it. Willem Dafoe is in it. What's her name from Queen's Gambit? Anya Taylor-Joy. She's in it, and there's a lot of like just interesting actors that are going to be taking part in it, and I think it just looks different. So I'm excited to see it. Number 4, we got Maestro by Bradley Cooper, where he plays Leonard Bernstein. He's also directing. Big reason why is because I think that when he did A Star Is Born and he did the whole like starring and directing, it was great. And now he's going to do the exact same thing here, and so if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and I'm not going to think that it's going to turn out any different. And I think that now he's going to have an even bigger role in this than he did in A Star Is Born, because taking on Leonard Bernstein's not going to be easy, but I believe in Bradley Cooper, so I'm really, really excited. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a Netflix one, which I think is just interesting. Number 3, we got White Noise by Noah Baumbach. I'm probably the only person that's going to have this high on their list, because Noah Baumbach's got Marriage Story, but it's like a lot of people are kind of on the fence about him. I'm a huge fan of his writing. I think, whereas most people think Aaron Sorkin's the best screenwriter out there, I'm a bigger fan of Noah Baumbach. I just really like his writing. And is him pairing up with Adam Driver again, which I think them and Marriage Story proved what they can do together, so I have no reason not to be super excited about this. And honestly, it would have been ranked higher if the 2 top movies for this coming year weren't possibly going to be classics. At number 2, I got Babylon by Damien Chazelle. He's got one movie that wasn't great, which is First Man. But even then, it wasn't the directing. The directing was fantastic. And besides that, he's got Whiplash and La La Land, which were 2 movies that are 2 of the best I think I've ever seen. And so I have high hopes. This is another, it's really similar to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where it's about old-timey Hollywood. It's, I think, in the 1920s. It's when silent pictures were going into talkies, which is movies as we know them now. It's got Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie. All of that, kind of the aura of it, sounds a lot like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I think, honestly, Damien Chazelle is built for that kind of movie. And there's a lot of hype around Margot Robbie that she may be an Oscars player for Best Actress this year, which I think is great. I think she should win an Oscar. And I also there's only been like one screening of it, and people are already screaming masterpiece, which I'm not surprised. I'm also not sure, though. But it's up there. And then number one, no surprise to anybody that would know me, is Killers of the Flower Moon by Martin Scorsese. Not that I love every movie he does, but this also has Leonardo DiCaprio in it, who I do love. And the last time these two worked together was Wolf of Wall Street, which is one of my all-time favorite movies, and so I have no reason to expect this is going to be any worse. Something I do find interesting about this movie before I finish, Jesse Plemons and DiCaprio originally had different parts, because the story about this movie is DiCaprio's character is the son of Robert De Niro's character, who's also in it, and they like killed people or something. They're not good guys. Jesse Plemons plays a detective who's like looking into the case. And originally it was swapped. Plemons was the bad guy, DiCaprio was the good guy. And I would assume the detective would be the less interesting, kind of more boring character, and the killer would be more interesting. I am of the opinion that Jesse Plemons continuously has the most boring characters in every movie he's in, which I think is just a strange typecast. And I think it's funny that he had the interesting character in this one and then got taken out of it and put into the boring sounding one. It's a stupid thing that nobody probably cares about, but I just think it's funny. I might be wrong. He might have the more interesting guy, but either way, I think this is going to be my favorite movie of the year. I'd be really shocked if it wasn't, just because of the combination of things. And it's going to be Apple TV, which means Apple TV may very likely have a back-to-back Best Picture winner. As of right now, it's looking like there's a good chance. That is my most anticipated films for this upcoming season. This was probably a longer video than I would have liked, but there was a lot of movies to cover. So if anybody has any opinions, comment. If nobody has opinions, don't comment. Like, subscribe if you're existing and you're watching this. That's it.
Woo! Yeah, yeah.